This is for the latitude and longitude activity. The following activities will help you become more familiar with maps and how they are used to determine locations. You will be presented with several different important terms and ideas related to understanding and reading them. We all know that the Earth is a rotating ball in space. The Earth is quite large. Its circumference is about 40,000 kilometers. Well, how far is that? For an average person walking 24 hours a day, non-stop, it would take 9 months. With so much land and water to navigate around, how can someone know where to find locations? Over time, methods have been developed to help us find our way from place to place. The world is a sphere shaped like a ball. We use scale models of these called globes to help represent the Earth. The problem with globes is they are bulky and not very practical for everyday use. It's much easier to use what map makers call a map projection. A projection is a flat, usually paper version of the real thing. This is a Mercator map projection of the globe. It is a popular type of map used for navigation. We can describe the Earth as being divided into 2 equal parts. These parts are called hemispheres. These halves can be described as the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere. They can also be labeled as the western hemisphere and the eastern hemisphere. An imaginary line is drawn on a map dividing the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. This line is called the equator. The vertical lines that divide the Earth into 2 equal parts and run through the north and south poles are called meridians. Unlike the equator, there are many meridians. Any line that runs through both poles is a meridian. The line dividing west from east is called the Prime Meridian. Prime means first or most important. The Prime Meridian passes through the city of Greenwich, England. Here are some practice questions. What term describes each of the 2 halves of the Earth? A meridian, B equator, C hemisphere, or D circumference? If you said hemisphere, the answer is correct. The imaginary line divides the Earth into northern and southern hemispheres is A meridian, B equator, C prime meridian, or D north poles. If you said equator, you're correct. Let's lay a grid over our map of Earth. The vertical and horizontal lines have their own names. The lines that run left to right are called lines of latitude. The equator is the line of latitude at the center of the map. The lines that run top to bottom are called lines of longitude. Lines of longitude are meridians. The prime meridian is the line of longitude that divides the east and west. A way to remember the difference between longitude and latitude is the following rhyme. The flat lines are the lat lines. Now let's examine how to use these lines to find specific locations on the map. The basic unit for measurement on a map is a degree. Starting at a point on the equator and following it all the way around gives us a total of 360 degrees. This means that each hemisphere, half of the Earth, has 180 degrees, measured either from west from the midpoint or measured from east from the midpoint. It looks a bit like a number line. The degree marker on the equator represents the points where lines of longitude intersect. This map shows points of longitude every 15 degrees. To move 45 degrees west, we follow the equator and move 3 points to the left. 45 degrees over 15 degrees per point equals 3 points. To move 60 degrees east, we follow the equator again and move 4 points to the right. 60 degrees over 15 degrees per point equals 4 points. We use the letter W to mean west and the letter E to mean east. Moving up or down from the equator, we use the lines of latitude. We might move south 15 degrees, or 30 degrees, or north 30 degrees. We use the letter N to mean north and the letter S to mean south. Since the map shows both sides and faces of the Earth at the same time, a map allows us to go 90 degrees north or south. All right, let's see what you can do. Click on the equator at 30 degrees. Click on the equator at 75 degrees east. Click on the Prime Meridian at 45 degrees north. Click on the Prime Meridian at 60 degrees south. Now it's time to put the two together. By combining the use of latitude and longitude, we can find any location on the planet. Location points look like this: 35 degrees north and 27 degrees east. For points on the map that fall between grid lines, we must make guesses. For example, 53 degrees is about halfway between 45 and 60 degree line. When finding a location, always start with the line of latitude. So for our example, 35 degrees north, 27 degrees east, we'll need to move 35 degrees up from the equator. Now it's time for longitude. Remaining at the 35 degrees north, we move to the right 27 degrees. We've found our point, indicated by the flashing red dot. Let's review the steps we take to find a location and try some exercises on our own. Steps to find a location. These are the steps we follow to avoid errors. 1. Begin at the point where the prime meridian and equator intersect. 2. Move north up or south down the indicated number of degrees. 3. From that point, while still on the prime meridian, move west left or east right the correct number of degrees. Let's try a few questions. Click on the map in the following locations. Question 1. 35 degrees north and 90 degrees east. Question 2. 40 degrees south and 55 degrees west. Question 3. 45 degrees north and 120 degrees east. Congratulations! Way to go! The lesson is done.